Well, welcome to part 2 with Mrs. Phyllis Boughton, and she is the owner of Connecticut Kitchen here in Danbury, and she has an amazingly empowering story, and she decided that she's going to stay on to tell us about it, because a lot of time we have our ideas about what our needs are, and we really need to speak with a designer to find us. So Phyllis, thanks for staying.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, we're just going to go full force into Connecticut Kitchen.
Okay.
Why did you choose that name?
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't select Connecticut Kitchen in Bath. When I married Mark 14.5 years ago,
Wow.
he had started the business,
Okay.
actually for some pocket change for his political aspirations. However, little did he know is when I came on board, I was very passionate about the business. And,
Wonderful.
you know, when he became mayor, you know, I said, okay, you know, it should, you know, if I'm staying on board with this business, it has to be 100% mine.
Wonderful.
And so, you know, he actually said, okay, it's all yours.
Smart man.
Yeah.
Smart,
well, he knew
smart.
I was passionate about
Yes.
it. You know,
Beautiful.
and, you know, just as he's passionate about his politics, and I
Yes.
support him 100%,
Yes.
110%.
Yes.
But likewise, he supports me
You.
in my endeavors. And, you
Right.
know, he says, honey, you know, you are so gifted at this. When I first came on board, he's like, why are you decorating the showroom? I go, well, what do you mean?
Men don't get it.
He didn't get it. I said, people can't visualize.
That's
You
right.
have to show them. You know,
Exactly.
so now, you know, in the showroom, we have different vignettes that appeal to different people. So you have
That's
the
right.
urban couple, you know, the New York City chic. You've
Yeah.
got the vintage style, you know, home, you know, the American primitive. You've got French country. You've got American country. So
Wow.
every vignette you walk into, a person can see themselves in that
Right
space.
there, this is my home.
Yeah.
And you know, I am smiling because at your appreciation, you know, he was standing back just admiring you, and then when you call him over to speak, he said, no. He said, come on over here. And he just went, and you know, you could see the pride in him and that he supports you
Oh, yeah.
in what you're doing, and you support him in what he's doing. And you know, you're a match made in heaven. And I remember when he was on my show years ago, and I asked him what it was like being a Christian mayor, because, you know, there are other people around here that I invite to come, other politicians to come on my show. And they asked me whether or not I'm going to put them on the spot when they come. And I said, listen, this show really don't belong to me, it belongs to God. So if you say something and I ask you a question pertaining to what you say and it puts you on the spot, I cannot be responsible. So then if you're not comfortable entering into a conversation with me, maybe you shouldn't come.
Yeah.
And Mark came, we had a wonderful time. You know, so I know you support him in what he is doing. But we want to talk about Connecticut Kitchen and how it impacts people's lives, how it has changed their lives, because I know I saw your customers there. I listened to them. And I know for you it is more than putting in a kitchen.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's talk about that.
Well, you know, I talked on the last show a little bit about, you know, going into nursing school, which I felt was very right brain, which is the emotional side of the brain, caring, feeling, you know, all that. And getting burned out. Then I told you about going into the corporate world where it was very left brain, and it's like almost like the He-Man Woman Haters Club where I'm going to get to the top and I'm going to climb there. And, you know, frankly, you know, the reason I left the corporate world was, you know, I thought about my life. And I'd been with Merle for about 10 years, and I thought, wow, if I died tomorrow, what would they put on my epitaph? And it's like really, when I think back, I think that's a strange thought for somebody in their early 20s. But I always had this deep-seated desire to make a difference from when I was a little girl. So I thought about that, and I said, there's more to life. We shouldn't be controlled by external things.
That's right.
At that point in my life, I was one level below the vice president of sales and marketing in a Fortune 500 company. I had, anything I wanted. I traveled. I was scheduled to travel throughout the world on the company's nickel. I was involved in this group called the Color Marketing Group, and we had conferences that were in, 5-star resorts. I could come and go as I pleased. I made my own schedule. I had as much vacation time as I would want to take, which I never took because I was a workaholic.
Right, enjoying what you were doing.
Yeah, I really enjoyed what I was doing, and I think they sensed that. People sense when you really care.
That's right.
And a lot of times I'd be at a trade show and whatnot, and the vice president would be there, and it'd be 12 midnight, and he'd see me at the booth straightening things up, making sure everything was pretty.
For tomorrow,
because I cared.
You
I
care
loved
about
the
people,
products I was representing. I just loved it. But at the end of the day, I was a woman in a man's world. And it was a company that had gotten large fast, and I was the only woman in upper management. So I had to be very masculine.
That's
I never cried. I, just sat there and kind of was very stoic, but at the end of the day, I'd go home and I was internalizing all these things.
It's like you burst out once you go through the door. And who wants that?
Well, at the end of the day, my health was beginning to suffer. So a friend had a company out in California, and she encouraged me. She says, I would like to develop my own line of pearlescent and iridescent pigments, and I'd like for you to be the director of marketing. Why don't you come out west and take this position? So at the time, I touched upon it. I came from a very controlling Italian family, which was a good thing. It kept me out of trouble, and it kept my nose to the grindstone in terms of my grades. So there's a hidden benefit in everything.
Everything.
Right?
Yeah.
There's always something. So now I look back at those years fondly, but at the time, it kind of, in a way, it gave me strength, but in some ways it took away strength because I never knew if I could stand on my own two feet.
Yes.
So a good friend of mine encouraged me. She says, well, listen, ask your mom, say, I've decided to take a position out in California and see what her reaction is.
Feel her out.
Even though I hadn't made up my mind. Well, my mother was not at all a happy camper. So she
way out west?
Oh, yeah. And I knew no one. Not a
oh,
soul.
Lord, no, you're not going nowhere, girl.
Oh, yeah. So she instructed everyone in my family not to talk to me. But at that moment in time, I decided I needed to do it for Phyllis.
That's right.
Because I needed to get my sea legs. I
That's
needed
right.
to know I could survive. I'd done some incredible things.
That's right.
But I'd never really been out on my own.
Yeah,
I always
need
had
to float the nest a little
bit.
Yeah.
So with my friend's encouragement, I actually took the position. And when I got out there, I wound up being a glorified receptionist position.
Oh, Lord, help us, Father.
But it goes back to the original premise that nothing is by accident. I figured out, you know what? I may not have the same level of salary, but I was happy.
That's right.
I was surviving. I was
free. By yourself.
And you get to be resourceful. I took my background in nursing, and I wound up being a personal trainer. I actually worked for the San Francisco Sports Club, which is one of the top health clubs out in San Francisco. And I actually got them to pay for my training and went through the American College of Sports Medicine and became a personal trainer. I know it's hard to believe nowadays.
Oh my, no,
life takes a hold of you.
No, but I'm looking, and people sometimes say, you're so well-rounded, and they really don't know the journey you have traveled.
No, and
but you look back over that journey, and you look on today.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no family that you could sit with that you couldn't relate to.
It really, I think it goes back to that whole perspective. It's like, when you try to see situations in life through another person's eyes, it gives you love and empathy.
That's right.
You know, when you have that in your heart, you know, and you understand the struggles of different people and where they maybe are, it gives you a lot of patience and tolerance. You know,
because you get up every day and you're thinking, how can I leave this world a better place? Because every day you wake up, all you have is right now, the now. What can I do right now that's going to make the world a better place? Because we are creating legacies. Phyllis, we see right now, we don't know what's going to happen 45 minutes from now. What we are doing right now, if we never get an opportunity to speak to the people again, what we are saying now should be able to make a difference in their lives.
Well, and I agree, and that's why I left the corporate world. Actually, I moved back east because nobody ever would come out and visit me.
To visit you, you're staying by yourself.
I was out there by myself having a grand old time, but I figured, you know, I was time to settle down, and I wanted. At the time, I thought I would be able to have children, you know. So I said, I want my children to know their grandparents, their aunts, their uncles. So I moved back east, and lo and behold, I meet my husband.
Oh, he was just waiting for you. You went out there and came back, and right here he was. Isn't that amazing?
Well, and it's ironic because here I was in my early 30s, and again, you know, I was like, well, you know, what's holding you back from having a family?
Yeah.
And it was like, I realized it was me. It was like I wasn't ready. So one day I'm jogging and I'm praying to God. I used to always, like, you know, jog and talk to God. That was my time.
That's right. You know, talk to him.
Yeah. And I said, you know, I'd really like to meet somebody who's deep and philosophical, somebody who's involved in the community, who owns an older home.
Be careful what you ask for.
Well, be very specific.
That's
Next
right.
time I'm going to say, has some money too.
Hey, Phyllis, you can't get everything. Don't be greedy now.
I know. But, you know, it'd be nice to be independently wealthy because then I could do 100% of my efforts could be philanthropic, you know. So
it will come. It will come.
Yeah. So it's very funny. I think about that. And so, and I wanted him to have an older home. So no sooner do I make these requests than a few months later, I'm at my brother's wedding, and he asks me to work on his political campaign. Now, I'm originally from New York State. So I say, whatever you need me to do, I'm here to help you. And he knew I came from a marketing, you know, background. So I think he wants me to design his brochures, his collateral materials. No.
You're talking about your husband now?
No, I'm talking about my cousin.
Oh.
My cousin lives in Danbury.
Okay.
And so at the time, which was 14 and a half years ago, he was running for councilman. He was in his early 20s. So he calls me the day or the week of election day, and he says, okay, I need your help. And I'm like thinking, what do you need my help now for?
At this stage, yeah.
So he says, I need you to stand out of Morris Street School and ask people to vote for me. So I say to myself,
Morris Street.
So
Put me at Rogers Park, for goodness sake.
So I was at Morris Street Schools. I show up at like 5 in the morning. And then I was like, okay, I gotta look, you know, like very Ralph Lauren for this day. So I had my ascot on, as my husband likes, a blazer, navy, khaki pants, my hair back. So I had to look very, you know, Connecticut, in my opinion. Not New York, Connecticut.
Yes, Connecticut.
So I show up at Morris Street Schools, and lo and behold, God blessed me on that day because it was a beautiful fall day. The sun was shining, and then out of nowhere, it started to pour. It was raining, and you know, so I'm standing out in this cold, damp, dank day, and out comes my husband. He was the moderator. He was not a politician. He was a school teacher.
High school teacher at the time.
Yeah, he was a high school teacher, and he says, "Would you like a cup of coffee?" And I thought to myself, oh, this is a nice guy.
What a nice man.
Yeah, I said, oh, that's very kind of you. Yes, I would like a cup of coffee because I was freezing.
Yeah.
So then later, the polls closed, and he says, you know, listen, I know, he's speaking to my cousin. He says, I know that, you know, you're new to this. He says, when we close the doors, you can come in and listen to us count off the machines, and then you'll know if you won.
Oh.
So we're sitting there, and they're counting off the machines, and my cousin, he lost.
Oh.
But what I admired most about my husband at that point in time is he shared a personal story of his own loss when he was running for state representative, and David Cappiello beat him in the primary. And I thought, wow, that's an incredible dynamic person, somebody who is not ruled by their ego, who's very, very sure of himself, because he's speaking to another male.
That's right.
And I thought, now that's the kind of guy I would like to get to know.
Really?
Yeah. So then my cousin says, okay, we're going to go to headquarters. And I go, oh, I'm very sad. I don't want to go out. He goes, you're going to headquarters. We go to headquarters. And then Mark, my husband, says, would you like to go out for a drink? And I said, oh, I couldn't possibly. I'm too depressed. And my cousin goes, you're going. So we go out that night. I wonder if your cousin
knew something that you didn't know.
Well, I think he did. Because that very night, we were sitting at Mimi's. I don't know if you know the old Mimi's. But I said to him, we were talking, joking around. I go, someday you're going to be mayor, and this is the first day we met, and someday I'm going to be first lady of Danbury.
You were that bold?
Yeah, we were both like joking around, talking about it. And truly, 6 months later, we were engaged, and 6 months after that, we were married as close to Election Day. And this year, we'll be celebrating, this November 10th, it'll be our 15-year wedding anniversary.
Well, congratulations. What an amazing story.
It's an amazing, but I want to bring that back to God. I mean, you know,
God really put you there at the right time.
At the right time.
At the right time.
At the right time.
If we are only patient enough to turn up and be obedient, just all we have to do is to turn up.
Well, and the other thing that I notice is we're born with free will. So unless we ask God to intervene in our lives, He can't. His hands are tied.
Exactly. We have not because we ask not.
That's it.
We must ask because He's there waiting, and He's standing and say, oh, Daphne, I wonder when you're going to welcome me in.
That's it.
And we sit down a lot of times, especially as Christians and as believers, we are waiting on the Lord.
Yeah.
And invite Him in. Invite Him in. He's waiting on you to
He
take
wants
action.
to help you. Imagine like you're asking your father for help.
Right.
And then, you know, you just ignore His assistance, you know.
He's standing there looking and said, please, I'm here, honey. Stop hurting. Welcome him in. Welcome me in. What an amazing story. What an amazing story.
I think
and you know, I am just so excited about you taking the time to so intimately share who you are, because I really don't think people around here knows you other than being the First Lady of Danbury. But every time I make that statement, it reminded me of when my son used to go to school. And I would go and they say, oh, hi, Gio's mom. I said, no, I am Mrs. Clarke-Hudson.
Yes.
And Gio happens to be my son.
Right.
Because I never wanted to be in my son's shadow.
Right.
I wanted to have my own brand, my own label. And I know as a first lady and as a public figure, a lot of times people think about just seeing you as the first lady and Mark's wife.
Right.
And really, you have your own brand all by yourself.
Well, I think that helps me.
Yeah, you are creating your own legacies, and rightfully so.
Thank you.
Because people look at you and they would never think that you traveled that journey with all the rough. They think you had it made on a golden platter.
No.
You know, and people need to understand it's like our culture. I think people are so afraid of the things that they don't know. A lot of times you'll hear them refer to those people, referring to the blacks and the Hispanic. And I'm thinking, hey, take some time to know them instead of talking about those people. And it's the same thing that, you know, as the wife of a politician, I'm sure you go through.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And it's funny, I'm on the Women's Business Council for the Chamber now. And the other day, we had a networking breakfast, and I was acting as moderator for Joanne Cueva because she was away. And I said, a lot of people know me as the mayor's wife. However, he's my husband.
That's right.
You know?
That's right. That's right.
You know, I have my own identity. And, you know, thank goodness I have that because, you know, it's funny because Dean Esposito, who actually ran against my husband many years ago, is now his #1 fan. So a lot of times when they have events, Dean will escort him there. And so he goes, I don't know how you do it, because sometimes we'll go into a restaurant and it's all about Mark, and then they go, hi, I'm here too.
That's
hey,
right.
what about me?
Yeah.
And you know, I think of that as part of the job.
Exactly, and you're sure of who you are. You're not searching for Phyllis. You're intimately connected to Phyllis.
Well, I realize I'm more than just Phyllis.
Right.
I'm a soul, you know.
Exactly.
I'm a soul,
exactly.
And I've got a purpose.
A purpose.
You know.
That's right. That's the bottom line.
That's it.
That's the bottom line.
And for me, if I stay in that mindset, it makes it really easy, because
right.
I don't personalize
That's
things.
right.
When the
That's
ego
right.
gets involved, then you get into all kinds of trouble, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, for
exactly.
me, I do things because I want to do things with a pure heart and goodness and love.
Yes.
And you know, getting back to what you asked me, is I had the opportunity to create a business that exemplifies that. When you walk into my business, it's an extension of me.
Yes.
You're walking into my home. You
Yes.
smell cookies baking,
Yes.
because they're being baked just
Yes.
for you.
Yes.
You know, when you
Yes.
come in, you're offered coffee, tea, spring water,
Yes.
lemonade, iced tea. Why? Because I care about you. If you came to my home, I'd never say, you know, Daphne, you know, have a seat. I would never. I would say, Daphne, would you like a cup of coffee? Oh, you don't like coffee? Let me get you some tea. It has the temperature. Is it too cold? Is it too hot?
Yes.
You know, oh, would you like a piece of cake? That's a very Italian thing.
Yeah,
but
and I think it's a Jamaican thing too, because even though I live alone and I cook a whole lot, because my mother taught me people should never come to your home and leave hungry.
yeah,
So Jamaicans, we are always cooking a lot.
that's it.
People has to leave with a care package when they go. There's always enough.
Because isn't that about love for you?
It is about love. It is about love. A friend of mine who lives in Atlanta, she encourages me to write a cookbook. And she said, blend the spices, because everybody wants me to cook for them.
Yeah.
And she said, if you write the book, then people will have that. But I listen to you as an Italian speaking about it, and it's the same thing in my culture as a Jamaican that we go through, and we try to work on exemplifying that. I want you to look in this camera, Phyllis, and for that person at home who is struggling with that burning desire inside of them, what would you like to tell them to encourage them to just get up and go and do something?
Well, for those of you who are looking or listening today, I really appreciate the time that you've taken to listen to what we have to say. But first and foremost, I would encourage you to just do it. You know, like the Nike expression, just do it, go for it. You know, and keep the mindset that when one door closes, another door opens. And everything in life happens for a reason. So I was just listening to that one song by Eminem. He's like, you know, you can do anything. One of the lyrics, the lines, is, you know, it's pretty amazing when you really listen to some of the words, but you can do anything you put your mind to. You just got to want to do it. You know, a lot of times I actually go to school post-university for counseling, but a lot of times our society, you know, when we're young children, and somebody says, can you do a triple somersault off the high diving board? And every little child in the room says, I can, yes. But then as they progress through schools, unless we feel like we're an expert,
we don't want to do anything.
We don't take a chance. But you know, it's really a test of faith, because when you're doing your God-given talent in life, you don't necessarily need the credentials to do it.
That's right.
You know?
God has really certifies you.
You know, my gifts are in design and color, and I can take other people's stuff that they don't see any beauty in and put it all together and make a gorgeous space out of it. So, you know, I would say, you know what? Take action. Make today count. You know, if you want to go back to school to get the credentials, you know, go for it.
If it makes you happy, yes.
I read a great book. It's called The Noticer by Andy Andrews, and it impacted my life because it talks about the power you have in every encounter, and how it can change an entire community. I feel that, you know, we're really blessed living in Danbury.
Yes,
Danbury is a
yeah.
very, very special community, made up of many different types of cultures.
Last time I checked, it was 49 or something
49.
like that. It's like
and what
a
a
mini
blessing
UN.
that is.
Yes.
You know, because when you're exposed to so many different types of cultures, we can learn from each
That's
other.
right. It's like a salad bowl. It's like a fruit salad,
That's
and
it.
all the blends and all the tastes are together.
But we all support one another.
Support one another, and that's the beauty about it.
Absolutely.
That's the beauty about it. Well, we have 3 minutes. They say time
Wow, it
goes
went so
by so quickly when you are having fun. Closing thoughts. What would you like to leave the people with? What, even if they don't remember anything as you said, what you want them to hold on to from this conversation?
I would like for you all to hold on to, you know, anything is possible. You know, put your mind to whatever it is you want to achieve. Think back to when you were a child. If there was something that you felt especially comfortable doing. You know, as a child, I used to take Barbie dolls and make outfits for the Barbie dolls. Never bought the clothes. I was creative. I love talking to people. Figure out, you know, what your strengths are and recognize your weaknesses and you know, build on those weaknesses. If you're not an organized person, figure out ways to get more organized.
That's right.
You know, as a kitchen designer, I'm very creative, but I had to work on those left brain skills, because if you can have the best kitchen design, but if it doesn't fit in the space, it's useless, right?
Exactly, exactly.
So, you know, that's just an example, but, you know, I mean, another example is, you know, my husband wasn't the best student in life. And his parents at the time weren't going to pay for college. So he actually went away into the military to get, you know, the United States government to pay for his college education. He came out, did well in school, and look where he is today. So, you know, my message to everyone is we've got a very special and unique community. We're very, very blessed, each and every one of us. We've all been given special gifts and talents.
Yes,
and I encourage you all to tap into those gifts.
Yes, yes. Oh, well, Phyllis, I tell you, I just look forward to having you back on here, because I know we haven't really scratched the surface of your story, but I want to thank you for not only being a guest, but for investing in my listeners, in my vision, and in my mission. Thank you. All I can say, keep doing God's work and keep touching lives and keep transforming spaces.
Well, thank you. You keep doing your work, because you're doing a tremendous thing for our community as well. And I thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. And for those of you at home, you know I always tell you that you do not have to settle for mediocrity, because you have the ability to create excellence. Well, you heard it here from Mrs. Phyllis Boughton, successful businesswoman and also First Lady of this amazing city of Danbury. Thank you for turning your dial to the A New Day show, because I know you could have been watching a million other things. Again, I thank you so very much.